Well, it is 1:30, and I like to start these things as much on time as I can, so thank you for joining me today. For those of you who I haven't met before, my name is Jesse Hill. I'm the president of Tier 3 IT Solutions, and today I want to make sure that we make good use of your time, share some good information, but if we can make it interactive, we're interested in doing that as well. So as we go through the session today, if you have any questions, feel free to put them into chat or use the Q&A. And Tinmar, our sales operations analyst, has joined me today. She'll be taking a look at those and doing our best to help out and make sure that you leave here with information that's helpful and valuable to you. The topic today, as you can see, are 10 questions most IT providers don't want you to ask. And the reason that we decided to put this session together was actually twofold. The first was that we regularly are meeting with prospective new clients, and our approach typically is focused around understanding how technology is impacting that particular prospect's business outcomes. And so we're asking a lot of questions about efficiency, risk, productivity, and topics that are, I guess, apparently not always top of mind for technology providers. We had a couple of these prospective clients reply to us in our sessions and say, nobody else has asked us these questions, which to me was shocking because without understanding how technology is impacting your business, I struggled to understand how we would make good, solid technology recommendations. Of course, we need to get into the bits and the bytes and all of the cybersecurity and settings and configurations and the technical work of what we do. But first, we have to start with an understanding of the business outcomes that you're trying to pursue and the business outcomes that you're potentially not achieving at this point. So that was the first thing. The second thing, the second reason we decided to run this session today is I often, again, ask those same prospective clients. And I say, how are you going to assess all of the potential IT service providers that you could meet with? Because I often hear them say, oh, we're meeting with 3 IT companies or 5 IT companies. And the challenge that a lot of folks have is that they are not well-versed in terms of technology. And they're not very well-versed in understanding how these complex systems are connected and how they are presenting risk or creating opportunity within their organizations. And so we looked at it from both sides and realized that there's a bit of a gap in between IT service providers like us and companies and business leadership who are trying to assess where they're at and what their options look like from a technology perspective. So today, the topics that we're going to talk about, I believe, as I mentioned earlier, are going to have a big impact on your organization's security, your level of risk that comes from technology, the productivity of your team, which to us equates into efficiency and profitability, and then of course the ability to grow your business using the same technologies and the same people that you have today, hopefully take on more profitable engagements and build a better business through thoughtful technology planning and implementations. So we're going to run through the items that we have here. Not only are we going to talk about what are these 10 questions you can ask or should ask an IT service provider, but what are the things that you want to be aware of that could be a red flag or a reason that you would be concerned, what good looks like, and then hopefully give you some next steps that you can take to move this forward after the fact. So the hidden problem in the buyer's journey is that if you are going out and you are trying to select a new IT services provider, you're going to hear a lot of us, IT companies, IT service providers, say that they are proactive. And being an industry insider, having run this organization for over 25 years, and having gone through all of the different iterations and service model structures and understanding what it takes to do this well, I can tell you that most IT providers are reactive, whether they say they're proactive or not. And what this means is that problems are not being prevented, they're being fixed after the fact. So let's jump into some of these questions. So the first one here, how are you identifying risk in our environment before they become problems? Now, what you want to hear is you want your provider to give you a response to the effect of, we have a structure and a process where we complete regular periodic reviews around your security, your stability, your configurations, and we compare your configuration against industry best practices, cybersecurity frameworks, and learned experiences from our experience being an IT service provider, so that we can bring those risks to your attention with recommendations and timelines for remediation. A red flag on this one would be, a response like, well, we'll fix things when they come up. We haven't noticed any major issues. Anything that implies they're reacting to the problem rather than utilizing a system to prevent them. So we're looking for that process. And this is, I think, one of the industry insider things that I have is that anytime you're sitting with an IT provider and they say they're proactive, ask them to define what that means. Ask to see the process and ask who is the person on your team that is explicitly responsible for managing that process. Second question we have, what risks are you actively tracking for our business right now? And let's face it, technology is complicated and moving fast, and there's new vulnerabilities and risks and configurations, and there's all kinds of things happening. There is no such thing as a 100% cyber secure business. So when you ask this question, your IT services provider should be able to present to you a clear list of specific risks. It could be configuration items like tightening up control on your email tenants, implementing multi-factor authentication, maybe some systems that we know are going to be end of life and unable to be supported in the future. And they should have a plan of what they're doing about each of those. And going back to our previous question here, what we really want to see is that each of these risks and recommendations is tied back to a proven cybersecurity framework like the CIS controls or the NIST cybersecurity framework. The red flag here is something to this effect, well, there's nothing happening right now, if that's what you mean, or I'd have to check, everything seems fine. All of these types of responses that are a little bit more based on what they think rather than what they can prove. So what to look for here is you want to make sure that they have a proactive, predictable process that's assigned to a dedicated resource that's going to follow proven frameworks to identify risk, bring them to your attention, remediate, and then review. Because again, the problem with cybersecurity is that it is a journey and not a destination. We need to continuously revise and update and come back to address those. The next one here, how do you ensure we don't have any unseen gaps? And there's a couple of specifics here. It amazes me how many businesses we meet with today, they're still struggling with adopting and agreeing that they should put in things like multi-factor authentication, that they need to get rid of their Windows 10 devices. And this last one, configuration drift, this may be something that you haven't heard before. But what we're essentially alluding to here is that over time, as people use computers, as they're given permissions to make changes, they may install software, change settings, remove software, do things that modify the standard that you believe your computer systems, your technology is configured with. This configuration drift creates risk. So what you want to hear is we have baseline standards. If something drifts, like multi-factor gets disabled, or updates are turned off or missed, we have a process that monitors it, notifies us, and we have a team that will work to fix it proactively. What we want to avoid, a red flag here would be something like this. We're pretty sure MFA is turned on. We send patches out every month, or we rely on Microsoft, for that. Because the thing is that every single IT service provider has the same tools available to them for management. But these tools can be used in so many different ways, so many different configurations, so many different options. And it takes a discipline and an attention to detail to make sure that they are executing the way they're supposed to. How do you plan our IT needs in advance to avoid surprises? This is one of the gold standards that you want to be looking for in your IT services partner. Again, I often meet with prospective clients who tell us that they don't hear from their IT services provider unless they call them. And that's really a big red flag for us because technology changes fast. So you want to make sure that they have a process where they are scoring what you have, comparing it against prior performance, where they can show you improvements in security and stability. You want to hear things to the effect of, we track all of your devices, their age, we have planned replacement schedules, we're going to help you budget well in advance, and we're going to meet with you to make sure that this strategy is aligned with your business goals and objectives so that the investments that you're making are helping technology improve your business outcomes. We want to avoid, we'll let you know when something breaks, anything that's reactive. Because the fact is, we know that when you buy a device or you subscribe to a service, there's an expected lifespan of that. We can plan for these things. It's never going to be perfect. There will still be unexpected failures and outages and those types of things. So what you want to look for is a cadence where there's a process behind it that's going to allow you and your IT provider get together, compare what you have, what you need, where you're going, and make sure that you're planning in advance as much as possible so that you can be prepared for those investments when they should come up. Now, I think that this is a question, maybe you can tell it's written by an IT provider for you to ask other IT providers, because we've never been asked this question by a prospective client, and I think it's really important. So how do you keep our technology aligned with modern best practices over time? So what we're trying to find out here is we're trying to uncover how is this IT service provider going to make sure that you are up to date, not just with patches, but that your technology is up to date and ready to adopt and enable you to use new technologies as they may come available. So what you want to hear is we have something like a review process where our team takes a look at every single one of our clients and they compare their configurations against stated best practices. You've heard me a couple times today talk about frameworks, CIS controls, NIST cybersecurity framework. The thing is that a lot of IT providers, they go off of their gut, and that's fine. We all learn a lot of things and have a lot of experiences that contribute to our knowledge. But these frameworks give us proven, structured approaches that we can follow to systematically enhance and improve the technology within your business. By using a framework, you know that your IT service provider and the people who work there are on the same page, that they have a planned approach to how they're managing these things. What you want to avoid are statements like, well, it's everything's working. Is there something you wanted to change? Or we upgrade things when you need it. Because if that's the approach, then you're getting into a reactive model that you're going to be caught off guard when a new technology like AI becomes available. Maybe your systems aren't ready for it. Maybe you got caught off guard last year when Windows 10 went end of life and you started finding out there were going to be security vulnerabilities and software incompatibilities and problems with maintenance and support. And so you want to make sure that those things are dealt with ahead of time. How do you track and reduce the number of support tickets we have each month? The reason we framed the question this way, and we're going to have a couple others where we talk about support, is that I often, when I'm sitting across from a prospective client, I'll get asked things like, well, how quick do you guys respond to a ticket? How many support technicians do you have? How long does it take to solve a problem when we have it? And those are all good questions, but they are reactive. What you are asking is, when our business is interrupted, how long will it take you to react to the issue? Where we believe a strong partnership with a proactive IT services company will help you reduce the number of business interruptions or support tickets you will have each month. So you want to hear something like, well, we have a process where we review the ticket patterns monthly, we investigate recurring issues and look for root cause solutions, and we want to make sure that over time we're reducing not just the number of support tickets, but how long it takes to solve each of them. So you want to avoid anybody that, when you ask the question this way, how do you track and reduce the number of support tickets we have each month? If they say we can't really control that, that to me is a pretty big red flag, because every single ticket that you create gives a little bit of context about whether you have a software problem, a hardware problem, a user awareness problem, a vendor issue. And so a mature provider should be obsessed with reducing tickets, not necessarily celebrating how fast they can close them. A mature IT services provider will have a process of how they go about reducing the number of tickets. And it's about having people in proactive roles who aren't on the support desk that are focused exclusively on improving the stability, the security, the supportability, and the strategic alignment of your technology to your business needs. So this is the follow-up then. If we've talked about how to reduce the number of tickets, well, when a ticket comes in, how do you shorten the amount of time it takes to resolve the issues? Again, we often hear questions about how long does it take us to respond to a ticket, not necessarily how long to resolve them. So what you want to hear is something to the effect of, we're going to reduce complexity, we're going to improve documentation, we're going to work to eliminate recurring issues. And then, when a ticket does come in, we have more resources available to deal with them. We also are going to make sure that we have workflows so that when a ticket hits a certain threshold, we have an escalation, we have a review process, we have people whose role is specifically to look for those outliers and look to get rid of them. The red flag is, we'll get back to you really quick. Again, often we hear that there's frustrations around this. And so the point here is that a fast response does not necessarily equate to a fast resolution. By implementing the discipline that we've talked about around process, around documentation, around structure, the goal is to reduce your dependence on the support side of things, to increase your team's productivity and lower your total cost of operation. Ties in with this one. And again, these are questions to ask either your current IT provider or any that you are vetting potentially. So how do you prevent recurring issues from disrupting our staff? We've talked about it the last couple of slides here. You want to hear something about we have a process to analyze recurring tickets, we look for the root cause, and we work to permanently fix the underlying issue. What we want to make sure we avoid is any providers who say, yeah, just send us another ticket and we'll take a look at it. Because really when it comes down to it, recurring issues could be a sign of poor design, poor process, poor discipline. And you want to make sure that your IT is aligned with your business because it's a critical part of how you're going to operate and achieve your business goals. What's your process when you discover a pattern of recurring issues? What you want to hear is something to the effect of we document it, we escalate it, we review and update our standards, we will correct configurations, and then we'll report back on the improvement. So every single improvement that gets made, it needs to be revisited because these changes, they don't always happen immediately, and they can revert back, it can create new problems, and so you want to make sure that there's a cycle that it all goes through. The red flag, again, this is a very reactive response, is we fix problems when they come up. So when we see patterns, whether it's a lot of tickets coming from, relating to a certain piece of software or a certain device or a certain user, those patterns should identify, an area of focus where a proactive IT services partner can go in and investigate the root cause, work with you to develop a plan to, remediate or remove that issue out of your technology. So how do you align your IT to work with our business goals, not just fix the technical problems? I talk about this internally with our team quite a lot, is that when it comes to IT services, there's a lot of different ways to evaluate partners, vendors, providers. Often the focus is on speed of response, price, and then maybe a relationship fit or something to that effect. The technology choices that you make have the ability to impact your business in ways that no other partnership that you have will. So this is really critical that you have an IT services partner who is going to have a regular structured cadence and a discipline to meet with you and talk about where is your business today? Where are you trying to be a year from now? What are the obstacles that are keeping you from getting there? How do you envision technology fitting into that future vision of the business? And then using that information along with the technology assessments that have been done of your organization to develop a technology plan that supports those goals and helps you overcome those challenges. The technology plan should adapt to your business, not your business adapting to technology. You might run into providers and they'll say, yeah, you know what, our support team is great. They'll tell you if they think something needs to be dealt with. Well, no, support is real busy doing support stuff. Support is a reactive part of the business. You need to make sure that your IT services provider has people in dedicated roles who are specifically focused on helping develop and design and implement the technology strategy to help you meet your business goals. Technology should be a tool to help you run a better business and not just a tech support service. So a great IT partner is going to help make sure that you have fewer issues, better security, more predictable costs, and ultimately higher productivity within your team and your organization. So what I would suggest, ask your provider these questions. Recognize what good looks like, and keep your eyes open for any red flags. And hopefully this is helpful to you in making sure that you've got a positive, proactive IT services partnership. If you ever want to chat with us about how we might be able to help you, we'd love to have a discussion. Feel free to shoot us an email, scan the QR code, and we thank you a lot for joining today. I hope you have a great day. Thanks.